Melissa Melton here for Truthstream Media, and I just wanted to do a follow-up video to the school lunch video I just put up, because I think this is something that people, you may have heard about, but don't realize how pervasive this issue is in our country, and this is pretty ridiculous and pretty disturbing. I mean, as if Common Core indoctrination wasn't bad enough. Right now we have schools all over the country, and I do mean all over the country, from Maine to Texas to Utah to Ohio, Massachusetts, New Jersey, all over the place, taking away kids' lunches who can't pay on their student account for school lunch and throwing it in the garbage, okay, and making the kids go hungry. They get little to no food. In some cases, they get nothing. There's a no pay, no eat policy at some of these schools, and this is sure to just create the most wonderful society you can ever think of. Check this out. First, let's talk about some of these cases so you can see exactly what is going on. Let's start with Utah. Utah, school takes lunches from students in debt. This is about 50, some say 40 to 50 elementary students in a Salt Lake City school had their school lunch thrown out in the garbage because money was owed on their accounts, or they didn't have any money on their account. So they had $3 lunch, but maybe they only had $1 or something. They got their lunch taken away and thrown in the trash. And at least here in Utah, they gave the student a piece of fruit and some milk when they did this. So they at least got a little something. But reportedly, this happened to these elementary school kids on pizza day. So that's even just so much worse somehow. This happened in Dickinson, Texas. A 12-year-old Dickinson student's breakfast was thrown in the trash because his account was short by 30 cents. So breakfast, we tell kids it's the most important meal of the day. It's so important, in fact, that if you don't have a quarter and a nickel, they will take away the breakfast from you and throw it in the garbage. And by the way, the breakfast costs $1.25. So it saves the school money somehow. Let's explain that first of all. I would like someone to explain to me how it saves the school money to throw $1.25 worth of food in the garbage. Waste the food, but the kid doesn't have 30 cents because the school needs that quarter and that nickel so much, right? That makes sense? Okay? Here's another one in New Jersey where they're throwing away the lunch of a 10-year-old autistic boy, because I'm really sure he totally understands exactly the entire machinations of what's going on here. Most 10-year-olds probably don't understand this. It's not like 10-year-olds in this country can get a job. Although some superintendents, like this guy here, David Walker from Maine, Old Town, Maine, he believes that kids in middle school are old enough to understand when they can't pay, they can't have lunch, and they should be able to take care of that themselves. It says here the no pay, no food policy is only implemented at the middle school and high school levels, not the elementary school level. Students are old enough to take responsibility for their lunch, and so they're denying lunch to an 11-year-old. Yes, Mr. Walker, because you're such an educational superstar that you totally understand that 11-year-olds don't have jobs in this country. Anyway, look at that guy. Look at him. Okay? Did he have a job when he was 11? Was his job being a dick? All right. What's next? Minnesota. Don't forget your lunch money. Apparently, they're telling students not to forget their lunch money in Minnesota schools because all across the state, not only will they get a verbal warning, but check this shit out. They will also apparently get a hand stamp on their hand visible to all other students that says lunch or money on it. So they have to walk around branded with the scarlet letter of poverty for the whole rest of the day for all of their friends to see and all the other kids to pick on them that they can't afford to eat the stupid, crappy, subsidized government GMO chemical BS that we pass off to kids in these taxpayer-funded schools because they can't afford it. That's what we got going on in this country, and it just goes on and on. This right here is from Edgewood, Kentucky. Apparently more than 40 students at the elementary school there in Edgewood, during state testing periods, by the way, could not afford to pay for their lunch. So a good Samaritan from the community showed up who was like, that's ridiculous, and paid $56 so these kids could have lunch during state testing. People wonder why the state testing, the scores are so crappy. It's not just because Common Core, it's also because our taxpayer-funded public schools are starving our children. And check this out. Parent Katie Kaiser said that her daughter was forced to dump out a full tray of food and was given saltine crackers and cheese. Hey, at least she was given something. Last week during state testing because of a $1.15 debt in her lunch account. The parent says she deposited the money in the account on the online lunch account because we have to do everything over the freaking internet these days the night before, but the transaction wasn't posted by lunchtime the next day. And there are schools that do that. My kids have gone to them, where you're not allowed to actually bring physical cash into the school to pay for your lunch. You have to do it online through a robot. So you're relying completely on a robot to make sure your children get fed, which is obviously maybe even a little more reliable than the actual school itself. And they're saying, is this a fair policy? Guess what? No, it's not. Here's another one here in Massachusetts where 25 middle school students were denied their lunch. And this parent here says, I'm pissed that when there are people in prison that are getting free meals, because, oh yeah, we're paying for the people in prison, the rapists and murderers, we're paying for them to eat, right? But the honor school students here in our public school system, they get to starve all day. And they get that social message because we're raising a wonderful society. And there are stories that come out too that if a parent wants to send home a lunch with a child, they have to get a doctor's note to do that. That's also come out. That's also something that's going on in this country. Okay? And by the way, just on the record, the Utah school that had this issue with not giving the elementary school kids their food and throwing it away in front of them, they received threats after that happened. People called and they were so pissed they called and threatened the school. And you know what? Maybe that's what's up. Maybe there's just not enough ass beatings going on in this country. These freaking social engineers that are screwing over the nation's children, screwing over their future. They're like, oh, what's the freaking point of a school? I mean, obviously, if you're going to have starving children, you're going to have low test scores. So is the point then to get more funding because your crappy school has crappy test scores because you don't feed your students? What are you, idiots? You're the people that are in charge of informing our students? You're the people that are in charge of giving them the education that's supposed to be the basis for their whole entire lives? You people? Really? This country's going to hell. And you know what's even more screwed up about all of this is that these schools promote their reduced and free lunch programs. They promote that to the parents. Anytime you take your kid to a public school, they will give you that and they'll be like, make sure to fill this out, see what you can get. And they tell parents to do that. And here in Minnesota, where they're saying kids can't afford it, some of these kids only pay 40 cents for their lunch because they're on a reduced lunch program. But if they can't come up with 40 cents, they still don't get the actual lunch. But you know why the schools want to promote the free and reduced lunch program so hard? Because if the school has a high level of free and reduced lunch students, they get more taxpayer funding. That's how it works. It's all about the taxpayer funding, okay? And these parents who can't afford to pay, or maybe the kid forgot to tell their parents that they needed to pay, because, 8-year-olds do that sometimes, or whatever. If the kids don't go to the school, then the parents get to go to court for truancy. And they get to take the parents to court, and some of these parents get put in jail because the kids didn't go to school that day, right? But the kids go to school, and then the school gets to starve the child. Where's Child Protective Services on that one, okay? This is bullshit. All right? And as a parent, it makes me sick to watch how pathetic and sad our public school system has gotten in this country. So, there you go.